It's the final Seacoast Sports Forum of the decade coming up. Where's the decade gone, gentlemen? Just like that.
Just like that.
10 years, boom.
Just like that, 10 years.
And we move into 2020 and
That's correct.
Yeah, and all sorts of good things coming up in store for hopefully all of us, and also for the Seacoast Sports Forum.
And for the Exeter Bluehawks.
And for the Exeter Bluehawks. Now we have a big show today. Let's start off with your special guest. Coach, introduce the gentleman.
We have a special guest today, John LeSage, and a lot of people know John as, some might know him as a math teacher, some might know him as a basketball coach.
A long time ago.
A long
Little
time
junior
ago.
high.
Yeah. Some might know him as assistant principal at the old and at CMS, old junior high and at CMS. And some might know him as an assistant principal at Exeter High School.
Mm-hmm.
So John has worn many hats, but the big reason he's here is to talk to us about how a program, athletic program, gets started, because he was the first head coach of the Exeter girls ice hockey team.
Well, second head coach. Beth Fulton was the first.
But you've been involved with it
since its beginning, yeah.
Since its beginning.
Now you have a couple of photos we should show
Yep.
off
We
the
do,
top.
right off the
Yeah,
top
yeah.
here. Let's look at the very first one here. We have a picture of the 2005, 2006 Exeter girls ice hockey team. There you
Right
go.
in front of your coach placard, maybe. There we go. Let's do that. Let's use that. There we go.
There we go.
Okay.
Bob can zoom right in. Tell us who we're seeing in the picture.
Well,
I believe that's a John.
John, can you, yeah, Beth Fulton is in the closest to Sherm's hand, and you can see John with the baseball hat. And unfortunately, we can't identify a lot of the girls in the picture, right,
What
John?
rink
Well,
is that?
We can't identify all of them, and some of them by first name only.
Yeah.
It's been, what, 13, 14 years?
Where would that have been taken, John?
Dover Arena.
Okay.
And I don't remember why it was taken there, or, if we just must have been playing at St. Thomas or somebody, because Dover didn't have a team back then.
That's what we were always saying. If people can identify folks that are in pictures that we show on
Yeah.
the show, give us a jingle either on one of our
Okay, so we have that
Websites.
one. And then we have
The second year.
the second year right here, and this is 2006, 2007.
And that was taken at, of course, the rinks at Exeter.
And you can see John on the far,
You're right.
you're right, and the two assistants
On the other end.
Yeah.
on the other end.
Yeah, I was going to say, there you go.
There you go. One is the current head coach, Jeff Taylor, and the other is Matt Lawrence, they were the two assistants, and John was the head coach. And this is 2006, 2007 team.
Yeah,
We do know number one was Abby Klein.
Yeah. Number 20, the other goalie is Katie Owens.
Yeah.
And number 7 was Ashley Mosier. They were the captains, I believe. And a few, 15 was McKay.
Yeah.
We called her Little McKay because her sister was the first captain we had. She was in the other picture. Trying to think, Bergen was number 6. Kimmy Kuntz was 16. 8 was Megan. 22 was Elena Bruno.
No relation.
10 was Kendall DeJama. Going in the back, can't see the numbers. Well, 17 was Amber Evans. I can't remember who was next to her. And then there was Meredith Waldron, and I can't really see the others.
So again, if you can help identify any of the people in these pictures, let us know. And you did say that Laura McKay was in the first picture, right?
Caitlin McKay.
Kayla McKay, and she's currently the coach at,
She's not anymore. She was
Oh.
the first coach at Conval. They probably had a team for about 6 or 7 years now, and she did it for a few years. She got a teaching job in the Conval system, and it was kind of nice every time we played her because, you know, it'd be one of your players who had gone on to the coaching ranks, and she was a great kid, great player, and you know, I think she ended up with kids and decided it was a little too much to coach and raise her kids at this point, but I'm sure she'll get back into it at some point.
I was just going to ask, John, endurance, as far as hockey, as far as I'm concerned, is right up there with soccer, football. What's the transition for a girls' team as opposed to the guys' team? You know, you got a weight training, or what's the process to keep?
Well, in hockey, like so many sports today, most of the girls that play all the time play on other teams, the hockey teams, and then they also play on other school teams. So it's pretty hard to play a varsity sport today without being a 12-month athlete of some sort. And if you don't, then you have to really get into the training of, you know, weight room. A lot of them go to Matt Lawrence's Ironman Fitness and a few other places, the Exeter weight room. And so when they come in, they're in really good shape. It's not like we have to start from scratch and get them in shape. They're there. They're just like the boys.
And they have to be naturally, you know, gifted to skate, you know, in that, with all that action going on, you know, shifting and all that.
Yeah, you have to know. We have to know the game, and you have to play it for a while before the intricacies of the game become, you know, second nature. And a lot of the girls that we've had in the last few years, that was the case. So we were able to work on the finer points of the game, the power play, the penalty kill, the breakout, and things like that, as opposed to having to worry about the basic, you know, positioning and how to get the puck out like you would if you were coaching a mite or a squirt team. We didn't have to do that at all. We had to do that in the beginning for some of them. We had really good players on the first few teams. We just didn't have enough of them. We had enough for one line, and then it was a big drop off after that. So when we played, you know, the teams that were established at the time, they could outnumber us. And
How many high schools had teams back in
then, probably about 8, I think.
Okay.
Now it's like 16.
Okay,
And you know, there's the haves and the have-nots.
Sure.
Too. We used to be the have-nots, and lately we've been one of the haves, so that's been good.
it must have been a big impact. You know, you had mentioned that the first picture we saw was at the Dover rinks, and then the second picture was at the Exeter rink. So the Exeter, when Exeter got a hockey facility in town, that must have made a big difference.
Yeah, I mean, the academy has always been great too. The boys hockey team over the years, I remember when I first moved here in the early 80s, that's where Exeter played, and but it's still their rink, and you're kind of subject to what they want you to do. Sure. With the rinks at Exeter, that opened it up for, not so much for us, but for the youth programs. And when we first started, there were probably 5 or 6 girls that were playing on teams, none of them in Exeter, somewhere else. Now the rinks has quite a few girls programs, so that's, our numbers are the highest they've ever been this year. And we're a very young team too, but they all come in with the ability to skate and play and understand the game. So it's a lot easier to coach when that happens.
Yes.
and that's important to bring out, that the numbers right now, and we'll get back to the history of the program in a second, but so many of the hockey teams now are cooperative teams.
Yeah, there are a lot of them, yeah.
And there are very few that aren't. I mean, we are not.
Us, Hanover,
Hanover is another.
Sauhegan,
Yeah.
Concord,
Portsmouth is a co-op.
Yeah.
Portsmouth, yeah.
Clipper Cats, another Clipper Cat squad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They are co-ops. St. Thomas and Winnicott
Andover.
and Dover.
They're all together.
Yeah, so
Brittany, Trinity, and West are a team. Conval and I think it's Walpole, I can't remember.
Yeah, and-
Lebanon and his co-op with somebody up there.
Central, West, and
Yeah.
somebody, Trinity, and
Brittany, Trinity. Brady, Trinity, and West are one team.
Okay.
But it changes. Central is by itself, I think. I think they may let the Memorial girls play with them, but they're just called Central. But it changes from year to year. And if they didn't do that, they wouldn't be able to have teams in some places. So it's a good idea.
now when you first started, you were a club team. Well,
team, yep.
let's get back to the beginning. How did you come about? I mean, what prompted Exeter to start a girls' ice hockey team, to your knowledge?
The girls, pressured coach ball, as far as I know.
Wow.
And a lot of them were in the front row of that picture right in front of you. And they, I don't know exactly the details, but they, had enough interest, and then eventually it got funded as a club team, and we started off. We only played about, I want to say maybe 6 or 8 games that first year, because there weren't that many teams, and there was only one team, 2 teams that were close to us. Everybody else was a lot more advanced and did a number on us score-wise.
Was Hanover were they in it?
Yes.
When you came in, and they were.
Let's listen to that
They
voice.
were-
Was Hanover there? Yeah.
Well, Hanover has been the class of girls ice hockey
Since the beginning.
since the beginning.
Probably before that, too.
Yeah.
Well, they had a program for years, and they played top teams in Massachusetts, New York, and Vermont. That was their schedule, and they would play in the club circuit with the teams in New Hampshire. And back then, Concord and Oyster River were probably the only 2 that I remember. There may be another one that could even compete with them. But as time has gone on, they're still the class of the league. They've won 10 championships in a row, 3 of them against us the last 3 years. But we're getting closer, and hopefully at some point we'll be at least equal to them and maybe be able to take them.
And actually, it was big news throughout the state when you went to Hanover and beat them, 3 years ago?
Yeah, that was 3 seasons ago. Yeah.
And that was the first game that Hanover had lost to a New Hampshire team since the year they didn't win the state
Yeah,
championship.
it was several years. I don't think they had lost any games, home or away, and then we just happened to beat them at their place. It was a great game, and we just played the best game we could play, and ended up on the right side of the score that night.
So, okay, the girls established, you started off as a club team. Beth Fulton was the first head coach.
Yeah.
You were her assistant.
Yep.
So you've been associated with the team since the beginning. Then you took over head coaching duties.
Yeah, a year later. Yep.
And I know the current head coach, Jeff Taylor, my son, was an assistant.
He was the goalie coach,
Yeah.
basically. Billy got him on as the goalie coach.
Yeah.
Matt Lawrence was my assistant. And,
Yeah.
and then we did that for a couple of years. And then I ended up having to leave the team. Principal at the middle school decided it was interfering with my duties as an assistant principal, so I had to give it up. And then when they brought me to the high school, I slowly got back into it, kind of just by chance. I had asked Jeff one day, I said, you don't mind if I come out and skate with you, get to know the girls? I'd just gone up to the high school. And he said, sure, no, come on out. And so I came out and I was just skating out, running through the drills with the girls and having a good time, and did that for several practices. And then they had a game at Concord, and one of the coach was Paul Landry had gotten sick and he couldn't go, so Jeff asked me to go. And so I ran the defense on the bench, and the rest is history. I've been doing it ever since.
Excellent.
And it's been a blast. It's so much fun. They are great kids, and they're great to be around, as I'm sure all the teams are in Exeter.
Oh, well, of course.
Yeah.
And what do you attribute, because we went from the have-nots, now we're in the group with the haves.
Well, it's
The,
probably the feeder programs more
Yeah.
than anything else, and then where we're able to take them to where we want them to go is a small leap as opposed to a giant step like it used to be. So it's been a lot easier to become a successful team with the number of players that come in that already know how to play and play on teams.
and I know when you started out, pond skaters were welcome.
Yeah, we
And-
still have a few of those.
Yeah, but not as many as you did back in the old days.
No, I always think of the day that a girl came out, and I can't remember her name, and I don't think I'd say it if I did, but she had never been on skates before. She came out with a bicycle helmet on. And she came out the door, and she couldn't skate at all, and she just hung on to the boards. And she made it all the way to the bench, and then went all the way back, got out, and her father waved me over to the door, and he said, my daughter doesn't want to play anymore. I said, okay.
I just respect hockey players so much, as you were
yeah.
saying, Bill, about the conditioning and stuff like that, because my nickname is Sam Weak Ankles Bruno. Cannot skate a lick, and to watch the speed of the game and how they handle themselves is just amazing, just amazing.
Well, the one thing that separates hockey in general, you can watch it at any level, is, when you send players out for a shift, I mean, the average shift is about a minute. And it's not because, for any other reason that if you stay out longer than that, then you're going to be exhausted.
Right.
So you have to change it. Well, it also helps you get more players in, but that's where we've been a little lacking against the Hanovers of the world. They can throw 3 or 4 lines at you that are all the same. Our top line and sometimes our second line are as good as theirs, but when the game goes on, they can just wear you down. And if we have to use our best players to kill penalties and power plays and things like that, and they just keep throwing one line out after another at you, eventually they'll be able to win out the battle of attrition, I guess, and that's what they've been doing for years.
How do you keep a goalie focused? Is there how do you coach that, or can you coach that?
Goalie?
A goalie, yeah, to keep their mind in the game with everything that's going on in front of them.
Well, if it's a evenly matched game, it's not a problem at all because the puck goes up and down all the time, so they're in the game. It's harder when you're playing against a team that's maybe you're dominating and the puck's not down at your end. Mm-hmm. So a lot of the times, we'll have the girls skate back and forth from board to board when there's a face-off if they want to do that, because they're just going to get cold standing there. Mm-hmm. But it's not a problem at all in a normal game because they became a goalie for a reason. That's what they like to do, and they want the action.
Yeah, they're specialists, no doubt about it.
Oh yeah, goalies in lacrosse and hockey are special, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny for me because Jeff, obviously, he played club hockey at Wheaton, mm-hmm. and played for Exeter and was a goalie. But I can remember when he decided he wanted to be a goalie. And it was like, he had been skating and stuff and learned to skate. And all of a sudden he wanted to be a goalie. And it was like, whoa. And I can remember he's played up a level as time went on. And he got hit right there in warm-up. Somebody hit him with a slap shot and got him right between the eyes, cracked his mask. Uh-oh. My wife went, "Are you sure this is a good idea?" But you're right. They are a special breed.
Yeah, that's just. My son was a lacrosse goalie at Exeter High School, and he took a few shots too. And I was like, "Why would anyone want to be a lacrosse goalie?" But that's what he liked to do.
Yeah.
As a longtime coach, John, what frustrates you with the game?
Hockey?
Yeah.
Well, it's gotten less because the rules have kind of changed a bit, and it started maybe 10, 15 years ago in youth hockey. It's gone all the way up to the NHL. A lot of the stick stuff, the holding, the grabbing is not tolerated anymore. They call all those sort of things. So a lot of the frustrations are gone that way. Okay. So it makes it a lot easier the better players get to show who they are and play the game that they want to play. Whereas in the past, somebody could just put their stick in their gut and just hold them up, and it wasn't called a lot of the time. So that's been one of the more positive things that's going on. Sometimes people get a misconception that girls hockey is like a no contact, but it isn't. It's a contact sport. It's just not a collision sport like the boys.
Okay.
So when they go down the boards, you can kind of rub somebody off. You can wrestle with them in the corners or in front of the net. You just can't clock them.
Okay.
Like the boys can, and
right.
Throw a check that's going to knock them into next week.
Okay.
It's more of a skill game that way, and that's really good. I like that a lot. So the girls have to know what that fine line is between being a little physical and not being physical at all, or they're going to get a penalty. And every once in a while you get a large girl, strong girl like we had the last couple of years, and you push somebody and they go flying into the boards and she'd get a penalty. And she didn't really mean to do that,
I know you have to score to win games, but what do you think is more important, offense or defense?
Starts with defense.
It always does.
It always does, any sport, yeah. And so you have to take care of your own end of the ice, and you have to, prevent the other team from getting opportunities, getting the puck back and getting it out as fast as you can and efficiently as you can, so you can do the same thing down the other end. And we've spent a lot of time on that in practice, and for the last few years it's paid off for us. We've had some really good players and good attack time, and put some, good scores up there against teams that we wouldn't have even thought of beating 10 years ago.
There's a lot of instinctive play in hockey because things are on the fly, literally on the
Yep.
fly. I mean, in basketball, you can draw up a play. Football, obviously, the chalk talking. But what about in hockey? How do you convey a certain play or a certain position you want to go after?
Well, it really isn't. We don't really have, like you'd say, plays. You have a breakout, and you have a certain setup you might use for a power play, or if you're going to run the trap on defense to keep the other team from coming in on you. But it's not like you need to go to a specific spot.
Right.
It's more of a flow.
Yeah, you don't get the telestrator out and start showing.
No,
all
in
that,
between the period, they might say you guys are a little too far back, or you need to get it a little
Mm-hmm.
closer. You need to be over to the boards. You need to pack it in a little more on defense. Whatever we see, or the difference between where the defense is and the offense when they take the puck and go up is it's getting wide, means we're getting tied. You need to get up and get into the play, that sort of thing. So it is more of a flow than a standard. In a power play, you'd have more positioning where they would be in certain spots, and you try to create 2-on-1s with the defense so that you can get a good shot on and rebounds and so forth. But it isn't set.
Well, one of the things I've talked about here on the show previously is that this past fall I had a chance to watch a lot of field hockey. And, that scramble in front of the net, is really exciting. And, when that shot, the rebound, having your goalie clear that rebound and making sure you don't get that opportunity right in front of the net. But on offense, being very aggressive when that happens, trying to let the girls know, this is our opportunity right now when you get that rebound and scoring in that situation. So, the excitement is still there. I find it highly exciting, in that when that happens.
It's the same in hockey. We get a lot of the. I don't have a percentage, but a lot of the goals are scored from about 3 feet.
Right.
Somebody takes a shot, it gets blocked, knocked down, and there's a scramble, and then somehow it gets to the right player who's worked hard to get to that position, and then next thing you know, it's in the net.
It sounds like with all the calls that you're talking about, then coaching the power play is really important.
Very, really, probably we start with the penalty kill first. That's a little easier to coach, and sometimes we don't even get to the power play because we've missed a few practices because of snow and a few things like that. But as the year goes on, I mean, like any program, you add things to it, different looks, and you might, instead of doing a 1-2-2, you might do a 1-3-1, almost like basketball in a way. And so the other team, if they've seen us in the past, they might not know what's coming.
Okay.
And make them adjust to us.
Good.
In the past, we've had to adjust to other teams because they were better. Now it's so far the last few years, teams are trying to adjust to us, with the exception of the Hanovers. And so it's coach is a little bit more technical than it used to be, I guess.
One thing I've admired about hockey parents, boys or girls, is having to go to practice at god-awful times in the morning, because that's usually the only time the rinks are available. The family support especially we'll talk about the girls' team. Tell us about how that and the boosters help out.
What makes hockey a little different is, and you could say golf the same way, is that you're not playing at the high school.
Right.
You have to go to the rink, and so you're subject to certain things that happen at the rink, times that are available, and so forth. As opposed to the basketball team plays at its own gym,
Right.
The football team plays at its own field. So you have to kind of take that into consideration. And we practice 5:30 in the morning every Monday and Thursday, unless there's a game that day.
Yeah.
They have to get out of school for a 3 o'clock practice, and getting the traffic out of Exeter High School is never easy. So the girls were always, running into you could see them running into the rink trying to get to the locker room
Right.
to get,
Yeah, for
dressed
3
because they want
o'clock.
to play. But if you're a hockey person, then the 5:30 a.m. is just what you do. I know a lot of golfers in the summer that'll go out at 5:30 and
yeah.
play too.
Oh, sure.
So it's, it's not a big deal.
Something was
First light.
cold and ice that just doesn't work at 5:30.
Especially if you scrape the car down, shovel the driveway out, and
Your squad's going to open up, John, on December 21st against Bishop Girton. It's 1:30 at home.
Mm-hmm.
You're probably circled on your calendar already January 25th when you'll host Hanover.
Yeah, I think we play them before that up at their place, but
Yes, at Hanover on January 9th. Okay, so I'm certain that there are some games that you circle, but you do have a little bit of an advantage that you have your first 3 games at home.
yes, we do.
So it's the 21st of December against Girton, then there's the holiday break, and you take on Masconomet. Wait a minute, that's a Massachusetts school.
It is.
And then you take on Bedford, which I don't know what kind of program Bedford would have where they're a newer high school.
Well, they're new. This might be their third year, I think.
Okay.
Third year, and I suspect, like all the other Bedford programs, that in time they'll be a good program.
roll.
They're a beginning program right
Okay.
now, and the coach is doing a really nice job. He's got girls coming out. It's just going to take a while. So they were, I would say, probably in the lower echelon at this particular point. But again, don't hold your breath.
No, right.
Yeah.
I don't know if you would agree with this statement, but I think you would. For those people who have never seen a girls' ice hockey game, you owe it to yourself to watch one in person, because the girls can flat out play. If you like the sport of ice hockey, if you're a Bruins fan, let's say, or or your son plays and you just enjoy watching, I'll tell you, they can skate, they can pass, they can shoot, goalies are good. It's as an exciting a game as going to a boys' game.
It is. Again, the only difference is the collisions.
Right.
I mean, you might get one by accident, but it's not part of the game at all. It's it's a skating game for the most part, skating, passing, shooting, and they're right. The girls can play. As far as athletes are concerned, they're as good an athlete as any of the boys in any of the sports.
And it's as competitive
Very.
for them as any other sport that you would see. And the other thing I would say is that Exeter, for the past 3 years, has made it to the state finals.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, we've ended up number 2 to Hanover, but we have made it that far. And you must sit there sometimes and just scratch your head and know where it began to where it is now.
Well, one of the games we always use as a measuring stick, one of our first years, I know it was the first or second, we played Hanover, and they tried to keep the score down, and they beat us 20-0. That's how much of a difference it was. And I think in the last state championship, was it 3-1, 5-2, or something like that?
3-1,
And we were actually either ahead or tie going into the second period. So we're so much closer to them than we used to be, and the program has come such a long way that it's it's a matter of pride now, like I'm sure any of the other Exeter programs are. You want it to be the best it can be. You want the girls to be the best they can, but you also want them to have the best experience they can have too, win all those. And that's something that happens at Exeter High School in all the sports.
And I know we graduated, probably, I don't know if she might have been the highest scoring female ice hockey player. Ever.
She might, yeah.
I mean, Carissa Tolson, and along with other key seniors. So the team this year is a lot of freshmen, sophomores.
It is.
With a smattering of juniors.
It is.
And maybe, I think, 1 or 2 seniors.
2.
And I know I went to the scrimmage. I saw you play
St. Thomas.
And boy, I thought we looked really good.
Yeah, we really don't know until you actually play somebody. You can skate around and practice and run things and drills and all that. Until you really get into competition, you don't know. We had no idea because we had such a young team, but we found out quickly that our kids can play. The young girls coming in can flat out play, and it bodes well for the program, bodes well for this year, and we were pleasantly surprised by how well we played against St. Thomas, Winnacunnet, and Dover.
I mean, we could skate.
Yeah,
we could fly.
So,
We were
so
flying
the
up
game
and down.
against Girton, that'll be a good test to kick
Yeah,
off the season.
you never know what Girton's going to have,
Right.
because they get players different in and out all the time, and so we've handled them easily the last few years, but you just don't know. And by looking at the scores in the NHIA website, it's a lot of the have-nots playing the haves, if you will, so the scores are kind of what they're supposed to be. So you really can't, nobody's played anybody that's kind of even, so you can't even look at the scores and decide, well, gee, they're better than they were last year. You have to wait until you see them. So that's, till the middle of the season, after you've seen a few teams and a few other teams have played against other teams, you really don't have any idea. It's one of those
And
difficult things.
teams must have been knocked off practice schedules with the 2 no-school days right after Thanksgiving. That didn't help at all, I'm sure.
No, it didn't help at all. Now, I don't know if it happened up north. We got the snow down here. Maybe
Right,
they
I
didn't
guess
lose their
so.
practices.
Right.
One of the things that makes it easier for us this year is we have a really good schedule. The travel in girls hockey is probably the worst of any sport.
Right, it's all around the
Yeah.
state.
Berlin's
On the bus
coming
a
to
lot.
us this year. We
Oh,
don't
good.
have to go up there. Conval's
fun,
coming
right.
to us.
Right.
They play at Winchendon, Mass, and Bishop Girton plays in Skate 3 in Tingsboro. They're all coming to us. So the only long trips we have are the 2 to Lebanon to play Lebanon and Hanover. The rest are like reasonable, Concord, Manchester, and that so forth. So we have 10 home games and 8 away games. It was the opposite last year. So that should help us out a little, because you take that long ride up to Berlin, that's got to be a 2-goal advantage for Berlin.
Please, please, on that bus, yeah, that's a long, long ride, especially if it doesn't go our way, you know what I mean? That's a long ride home. A
Yeah,
real
well,
long ride
fortunately, we've beaten them the last 3 years, I think now, Berlin, which we didn't have a prayer at beating them when we first started the program, because that is a hockey town, and it always has been.
Now, funding. The girls' ice hockey team is funded by the taxpayers of Exeter.
The way all the other sports
Yes.
are, yeah.
And now, what happens when you make the playoffs?
Well, when you make the playoffs, then they don't budget for the ice and any other expenses that go along with the playoff games, and you could play 4 games depending on where you end up, and in all the practices for the 2 or 3 weeks that it takes between the end of the season and the finals, and so we have to fundraise to pay for the ice, which is around $300 an hour, at a private rink. So. We have various things we do that help us out, one of which is corporate sponsorship. We sell, they'll have a fundraiser, they had a car wash earlier. They'll have another fundraiser during the Stick It to Stigma game, where they raffle off various things. They don't charge admission to the games like they do the boys, but they'll have 50-50 raffles and things like that. And so far, we've had a really good group of parents the last few years who have, which you need, that get into that and that have made it happen. And now that we suspect it'll be the same, because a lot of those parents have, their daughters have graduated, so we have a whole new group in here. But they seem pretty enthusiastic and want the program to continue at the level that it has. So we're hopeful that they'll be able to take care of that.
Well, you've had a very successful decade of Exeter Blue Hawk girls hockey, and now we head into a new decade. So good things in store for you.
We hope.
Yeah, well, we know. We got tradition at Exeter High School, no doubt about it.
We
got
do.
good coaching, and that's what's really important. And we'll be checking back with you during the season, and with Coach Taylor, and on the boys' side, Coach Paul DiMonico.
DiMarino.
I always do that. DiMarino. Sorry about that. Just like I coached over at UNH. I had Sean McManus.
Oh, yeah, you had
yeah.
Sean, yeah, Coach Sean was
I
the
want
head
to
of
give a
CBS
last
Sports.
second shout out to the Academy, because what PA has done when we have had issues with ice time, or a game has been rescheduled and we can't, because the ice time was already booked at the rinks, PEA has stepped up and allowed us to play there.
They've been great. They have been terrific whenever we needed them. Dana Bobbin in particular, but the Academy and all the people over there, they're very good to us. I assume they are to anybody else that from Exeter that had an issue and needed to use their facilities.
Well, like I was saying, a successful start of the decade of Exeter girls Blue Hawk hockey, and another decade coming up very soon. And we're looking forward to keeping in touch with you guys as you go along this season and then the seasons to come.
History isn't only written down in textbooks. It's something deeper, something within us. It's in the games we play, in the things we do, the people we meet, the places we go, and the things we accomplish. Exeter is rich in all of these. It's in the heart of the community. We celebrate it with our traditions. It marches forward without end. And for the first time, Exeter TV is bringing this history alive. Working with the Exeter Alumni Association and the Exeter Historical Society, films from as early as the 1930s through the 70s are coming to your screen. And as the year draws to a close, we'll be releasing these films every day starting on December 1st. So join with us as we relive the days of Exeter past and celebrate the rich history this town has to offer.
Well, thank you to our special guest today on the Seacoast Sports Forum, John LeSage of the Exeter Blue Hawk girls hockey team. Thank you, Coach, for joining us today. This week, we lost a key member of the Blue Hawk family, and not only an educator, a coach, but just a good friend, Coach Carl Robertson. We were fortunate enough to have Sandy Healy provide us with some photos. We put a little montage together in honor of Carl. All of us here on the panel were affected by the news of the loss of Carl, and let's start off with Sam. Sam, what's your remembrance?
Well, I think of all of us here, I think I might know Carl first. Growing up in Salem, New Hampshire, Carl and his family, his mother Mildred and Jack, grew up in Salem, went to Woodbury High School, and we knew them as members of the community first. I can always remember that Jack's mom was the crossing guard when I would be walking to elementary school. And so she was always very nice. So that was my first interaction with the Robertson family. Of course, wonderful people, and helped me get across that intersection safely every day. So that was wonderful. Knowing Jack and Carl in Salem was certainly a pleasure, but more importantly, went to Woodbury High School in 1963 and joined the football team as a freshman and ran into Jack and Carl through the football program at Woodbury High School. For those of you in Exeter who go back that long, you know that Woodbury was the high school in Salem. And in 1963, as a freshman, Carl was my coach. And as all of you know who've coached, freshmen are a little skittish when they get out there and really don't know the ropes. And having someone to show you how to behave, how to act, how to practice, how to behave on a coaching situation, and doing it in such a nice way was very important. Those football years were very important because the head coach was Dick Eustace, and having the Robertsons as assistant coaches during that time of really special times. So I worked with Carl all the way through 1967, And then in 1968, he moved to Exeter along with Dick Eustace at that situation. So my memories of Carl certainly as a young player in football, very, very sound. Then I came back and joined the Exeter community in 1979 when I joined the staff at the Seacoast School of Technology and became a colleague with Carl as he was a history teacher at Exeter High School. And being new at a new high school and not knowing everybody, having a friendly face like Carl to show me the ropes of Exeter High in the hallways and things like that and telling me, you know, how things work, just like a coach when I was a freshman, leading the way and doing it in such a nice way and such a warm way. Very, very important. So having him as a colleague, as an educator, very important. And then certainly working with the Blue Hawk football team with him later on, all very, very important. So, you know, that's my tribute to Carl. He's meant a lot to me over the years as a young man and certainly as a teacher at Exeter High.
You gentlemen, both as an educator and as coach on the field, memories.
Well, I came to Exeter in 1975, and Carl welcomed me. Was just, you know, the words, the adjective to describe Carl is he was just a nice person. He was a genuinely nice person. He went out of his way to be nice to you, to help you, to show you the ropes, like you said. So I came in 75 as the boys basketball coach. I then joined the football staff the following year, 1976-77. And again, a welcoming individual. The thing about that I would say about the football staffs over the years at Exeter High School is there's one leader, Dick Eustace, when I started, Billy Ball, when Dick left and retired. But there's no backbiting. Everyone gets along, everyone is friendly, everyone goes out of their way, and no one second guesses. We've been there, I've been there, because I coached into the 90s. Been there through some great wins and some devastating losses. But you know what? Everyone still remains the same. Nobody points fingers. Nobody says if your line had blocked better or if this and this and this. And I think a lot of it is a tribute to the head guys, but a lot of it is a tribute to the people who work there. And Coach Rob has been like a rock. I mean, when Coach Ball needed somebody, once Carl retired from teaching, he needed somebody to go pick up back in the days when we still watched film as opposed to video. He needed somebody to drive to Manchester. You got it, Coach, I'm there.
Right.
Coach Rob was there. He would go to Manchester and he needed somebody to go somewhere else. And he always specialized. I always worked with the punt snappers and the snappers for extra points. And Coach Rob always worked with the kickers.
Wow.
And so I would always, and he specialized more in the field goal extra point, not so much in the punters. And so I always relied on him because I would send whoever was the punt snapper was usually snapped for extra points. Not always, but usually. And Coach Rob, how was so-and-so today? How were the snaps? They were good, they were bad, et cetera, et cetera. Because I would stay right with the punt snappers because I thought that was so important. And yeah, I mean, he was a rock, but boy, he was a friendly guy. And yeah, I mean, he was a defensive end coach, and offensively, he usually worked with the line, and just an outstanding individual. And John, you You had 3 sons that played for him, right?
Yeah, I came here in '82 to work as a math teacher and the junior high basketball coach back in that year. Tom Meehan hired me,
Yep.
and I knew who Carl was, but I didn't really know him until my sons started to play. My oldest was a freshman in '98, played 4 years, ended up as a captain, and those were great years. And I had 2 others that followed him. And they all really liked all the coaches at Exeter High School and all the sports, but they really liked Carl. He was just, like you say, a genuine person. And even after they graduated, when you ran into Carl someplace, he had a genuine concern for how they were doing. And it wasn't a phony, hey, how's it going type thing. He really was concerned and wanted to make sure that his players were doing okay. And that'll always stick with me, that genuine concern he had. And I'm sure he had it for every player, not just my kids. And I got to know him quite a bit during that time. And you're right, you can't say a bad word about Carl. He's just a good guy. And it's a loss for Exeter, the Exeter community in general, and the sports community in particular.
My first football banquet, and we had it at a restaurant that doesn't exist anymore, and it was a big event, and Carl walks in his full Scottish regalia. He was proud of his Scots heritage, and he had the kilt and the sporran, and even had the dagger in the sock. And so you didn't make fun of him. It wasn't like that old joke, hey, what does a Scotsman wear under the... No, he was so proud of that, and looked really great that night of that banquet. I'll never forget that. I was like, hey, that's cool. And I would take my uncle after church over to Dunk's on Sunday morning, and we'd usually meet Carl, and he'd be picking his stuff up, and he'd come over and we'd do chalk talk. It was always something about either the team that's upcoming or the season that's in progress. And if it wasn't at Dunk's, it was over at Hannaford.
Right.
We were the guys that were always like, are these 2 guys ever going to move? and I was talking to Adele the other day, and she said that with Carl, he was the only man she knew that could go in to buy bananas. They'd be green when he got in there, but by the time he got home, they were ripe. And it was true, because we would stand
Couldn't
there
go anywhere.
at Hannaford for like 15 or 20 minutes, just shooting the breeze.
Right.
I mean, he was the epitome of a good guy and a friendly person, and that's the type of guy that leaves a legacy. He left good memories with all of us and all the kids he's coached over the years. And he really was concerned about those kids. I mean, that was the thing. He wanted success for the Blue Hawks, and he's soaring in a better place now with watching over the Blue Hawks.
I just have one more situation with Carl that was always a little bit awkward, in that, again, walking the halls of the old Exeter High School, okay? He was a history teacher. I was working next door when the SST was connected to the high school. And so we would meet in the halls, and then we would chat and stuff like that. And he would always call me over like this. And, classes are changing and kids are walking all. He'd call me over like this, and he says, put his hand on my shoulder and says, remember, Sam, us Salem guys have to stick together. Because he didn't want him saying anything about Salem in the Exeter High.
Well, it's a lot of good memories, and
I got one more that I'm going to share.
Sure.
And after he passed, Sundays I do the grocery shopping, and I do it early. And I was in Hannaford's, and I was talking to the cashier who always cashes me out, is a former student. And I said, did you have Coach Robertson when you went to Exeter High? And she said, yes, I did. And she said, oh, he was such a nice guy. And she said, the people at Hannaford's, the people who work at Hannaford's, are really upset with his passing. She said, because we only saw him when he came in to buy bananas.
Yeah.
but that he was just such a nice guy to everybody in the store.
He really was. And Dunkin' Donuts, too.
Yeah.
The folks at Dunkin' Donuts, when I was talking to his family at his memorial, they were amazed that Dunkin' Donuts was one of the first places to call to express their sympathies, because he was a legend there. I mean, you know, and I felt bad because he'd be standing there talking chalk talk with me, and all the time the tea or coffee he was going to bring back to Dell was getting cold, you know. So finally, my uncle was like, "Hey, he's going to get home." Oh, okay. All right, Carl. I wanted to mention that in the boosters are going to be doing something in honor of Carl. There's going to be the establishment of an annual award in Coach Robertson's name, and it'll be given to a player who exemplifies leadership, character, and sportsmanship on the field. So that'll be in the upcoming season, obviously, and also in the classroom. That's the most important part, in the classroom as well. And if you're interested, donations could be sent to the football boosters in care of Exeter High School, 1 Blue Hawk Drive, Exeter, New Hampshire, 03833, in honor of Coach Rob. A lot of us, like I say, been touched by the man, and we know that, you know, his spirit will always be in the building and on the field, Eustis Field. Thank you to Sandy Healy for the photos that she provided. She's the official photographer of everything Exeter Blue Hawk, and we thank Sandy for putting that, and Bob for putting a montage together. We'll wrap up on and Coach Rob would want us to end on a cheery note. It's the end of the year, new decade, as we've mentioned a little while ago. For our 2-minute drill, John, this is something we do at the end of the show. We just kind of throw anything on the table. So for 2019 or the past decade, a highlight or something that you know, you want to remember, that this is the time to do it. Coach?
For,
well, either one of you.
Well, what I would say is I would like to thank all of the athletes and the coaches and the fans of Exeter Blue Hawk, Exeter High School, and the Exeter Blue Hawk community, because it has been a heck of a decade. I have you know, seen another undefeated state championship in basketball. I've seen some outstanding football. I've seen great ice hockey. I've seen field hockey. I've seen, you know,
Don't forget baseball.
Oh, I've seen
Championship
baseball. Yeah.
for Kevin McQueen.
Yeah, I mean, but more importantly, the athletes, they've conducted themselves in a way to make their community proud, their parents proud, their community proud. And so I'd like to take this time as we end the decade to thank those people.
There you go. John?
I feel really lucky that after 35 years in education as a math teacher and assistant principal and so forth, then retired 3 years ago, that I'm still able to be part of the Exeter sports programs as an assistant coach for the girls. It is, I look forward to it every year. I look forward to every practice and every game. It is so much fun, and I really feel lucky to have had that opportunity and hope to continue it for several years.
And Sam?
Well, you know, I'm going to be a little reflective about the last 10 years in the area of media, since we're coming to you in your homes tonight. I think over the past 10 years, Exeter's been fortunate to expand its media coverage on television to 3 channels. Having a government, education, and public access channel. That's why we're with you today. And certainly thank you to all the people who've helped make that happen. And I think the next decade is going to be even better. So I think allowing us to talk some sports in Exeter and highlight some high school programs and do those types of things. And if you're interested in sports, then there'll be more things for you to watch and hear. So that's what we're looking at.
I agree with you. 10 years has gone by like that, and we started the show about 10 years ago on the radio, and transitioned it this year to television. And thank you to Bob Goalie and the gang at EXTV and Doug York and his crew up at the Exeter High School for supporting us. We do it as fun for the kids. Just 3 guys and company that come together and just have some fun talking sports. It's not brain surgery, and we're not trying to make an issue-oriented thing. Just kind of highlight what's going on in our community. And technology, you're right, Sam. I'm just waiting to see what comes up.
Well, I mean, it's amazing what high school kids and us in general are able to access right now, whether it's on television, whether it's on your tablets, whether it's on your phone. I mean, it's there all the time now, and it's important that we make sure that we get information out that's accurate and respectful, which I think is important.
Exactly. And for my 2-minute drill, I'll keep it real short. Just wishing everybody a safe and happy holiday season. I do have one New Year's resolution.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. And I think this one will come true. This one will
Does it
come
have anything to
true.
do with fantasy football?
Oh, before I go there, before I give that up, thank you. You're in the
John,
championship.
you don't get this. Sherm makes fantasy football teams for us, and
Yeah.
we could care less about fantasy
you guys
football.
are in the championship game. And you're projected to win by...
Are we against each other?
No,
we're together.
Your
Oh,
team.
our team.
Together. Your
Oh,
team. Mine's way
now
back
you have
in
to
the back
care.
of the pack.
Oh, okay.
Mine finished in 8th place. You guys are shooting for the top spot.
Oh, good.
And you're projected to win by, not 13 points, by .13. They project points for your team.
0.13.
0.13.
You mean like 1/10 of a point?
Yes, that's how close it's going to be. You're up against a real tough team.
Okay.
So good luck to you, gentlemen.
I'm gonna
And
lose a
we'll
lot of
find out in the
sleep
new year
over
how
this, you
know. So thank you for bringing that. Wait, back to the closer. The one resolution I know that will come true next year is that we will return with more editions of the Seacoast Sports Forum. So that you can put in the bank. For Coach John LeSage, Coach Bill Taylor, Sam Bruno, I'm Sherm Chester. Join us in the new decade for the Seacoast Sports Forum.